And we're back. Pull up your stockings and straighten your cravats, kids. Remember that travel in time I promised you earlier? Well, here we go. Back about a century to the age when jazz was scandalous, alcohol was illegal, and bobbed hair was all the rage. Sounds like a terrible time to me. But director Amy Knickerbocker was enchanted by this script when she read it several years ago. She was captured by the charming language and vibrant characters and intrigued by the subtle jab at the upper classes hidden within the hilarity. Mrs. Pringle is a selfish, elitist, socially ambitious hostess. She personifies everything that is wrong with the social elite, and she is throwing this party purely to further her own agenda. She doesn't care about her guests as people. She only sees them as rungs on the way to her destination, the top of the social ladder. She bullies and manipulates her daughter and her maid into helping her, does none of the work, and somehow takes all of the credit. And yet somehow you still find yourself rooting for her to succeed. Her antics and hysteria over each seemingly trivial snafu and the hilarity that ensues when she pulls Elaine and Dunham into her drama is pure entertainment. Anyway, what am I doing still talking? Let's get this party started. 14, everyone.
Dunham, I've had word that Mr. Harper has been called to the bedside of a friend who is very ill. He sent flowers, and it's a good thing he did, too, because I don't appreciate young men canceling dinner invitations at the very last minute.
An unfortunate turn of events indeed, Mrs. Pringle.
It's too bad, too, after you've set everything so beautifully. And it's getting so late, someone may come at any moment. How's Cook?
Cook's in a temper, as always, madam.
Well, that's good to hear. She's like an actress. The better the temper, the better the performance. As long as she serves us a good dinner, I don't care how much she swears. The rest of you will just have to stay out of her way. Where's Gustav?
I'm sorry to have to say it, madam, but there's such an awful blizzard out. He's sweeping off the sidewalk.
Yes, I should have ordered an awning, but who expected a storm like this?
Here are the place cards and the diagram, Mother. Shall I put them around?
Yes, dear. Elaine, I'm going up to look after your father. He's helpless with his ties. Remove one plate, Dunham.
Remove one plate. Oh, madam! Certainly you wouldn't sit down with 13.
13? Why, you're right, 13. We can never sit down with 13. Oh, it's all due to Mr. Harper's negligence. Sick friend indeed. He's just one of those careless men who never answers his invitations in time. His flowers indeed to make me forgive him. Now look what he's put me to. 13? Oh, wonder whom I can invite at the very last minute. Quick, Elaine, help me think.
There's always Uncle George.
He never opens his mouth in company.
Mr. Morgan, madam. He always tells a joke or two.
Why, yes, Dunham, very clever. Hello, Central? Lakeview 5971. At once, please. Elaine, dear, your hair's much too tight. Pull it out. Pull it out. No. Mr. Morgan's residence? Yes, this is Mrs. Pringle speaking from across the street. Could you have Mr. Morgan call me as soon as he gets in? I want him to dine with us. In about 10 minutes, you expect him? Have him call me right away. Now, if he doesn't get the message, then what'll I do?
Well, Mother, I don't have to be at the table. It's your party anyway. Everybody's married and older than I am.
Didn't I seat you next to Oliver Farnsworth? He's single and worth millions.
Well, he won't be giving me any.
Can't he marry you? It's as if you don't even want to make a good match for yourself. I fling every eligible man I can at you. Can't you finish the rest yourself?
It's no use your trying to marry me off to anyone as important as he is. He frightens me to death. I'm as afraid of him as I'd be afraid of the Prince of Wales.
Oh, the Prince of Wales! Oh, what I wouldn't give to have the Prince of Wales in my house. New York has lost its heart to him. I was just saying to Mr. Farnsworth yesterday that I'd give anything to have the Prince here. I would establish my social position for life. And I have such a reputation for being a wonderful hostess. Give me the telephone. Hello? Yes, Mrs. Sedgwick. This is Mrs. Pringle. What? No. Oh, caught in a snowdrift? Can't get another car? God, the widow can't come. That leaves us 12. Remove 2 plates, Dunham. Oh, my dear, I'm heartbroken. I don't know what we'll do without you. But have you really tried? I'm reduced to tears. Goodbye, dear. Well, I'm glad she dropped out. Hello, Central. Lakeview 5971. With 2 less, Dunham, we can save 2 cocktails and at least 4 glasses of champagne. Has Mr. Morgan returned yet? Well, don't give him the message I called about. Cross the street to Mrs. Pringle's for dinner. It's too late. You understand? Well, I've invited Mrs. Sedgwick. I don't have to invite her again for ages, and I've saved my champagne besides.
The liquor is getting low, madam. What with prohibition and entertaining so much.
But, Mother, if you only have 12 people, Father can't sit at the head of the table.
But he has to sit at the head. It looks too undignified for the man of the house to be pushed to the side.
There's no other way. There must be a woman at each end.
How absurd. Oh, I always forget 12 is an impossible number. I don't want any of these women sitting at the head. Not Mrs. Darby, she's such a cat. Wouldn't give her the honor. Oh, Mrs. Smith. Oh, answer it, Dunham.
Hello, Mrs. Pringle's residence. A message, yes, sir. What, sir? Mr. Darby. The doctor says your baby has the chicken pox.
Chickenpox, Elaine!
Mother!
Yes, sir. Mr. Darby sends his apologies, but as the disease is so easily transmitted, Mr. and Mrs. Darby feel obliged to regret, along with their house guests, Mr. and Mrs. Fleetwood.
That's 4 out.
Then we're down to 8. Quick, the plate's Dunham.
Don't we know anyone we can invite at the last minute?
The Hatwoods?
They never serve drinks when they entertain. I can't afford to invite them over to drink mine.
The Greens.
She's not interesting enough.
Mr. Conley.
He never answers a dinner call, no matter how many times I've invited him.
Hester Longley.
Not at the same table as you and Oliver Farnsworth. She's far too pretty, too clever.
Where's our book? The Tuppers.
The Tuppers, good heavens, Elaine, that's 6 in the family.
Well, that gets us back to 14. Then Father can sit at the head of the table.
Well, go ahead and try them. I'll rush and tell your father to hold up the drawing room.
Ridgeway 9325. This is Elaine Pringle. What Tupper am I speaking to? Oh, Ella, hello! I hope you haven't finished your dinner yet. We had a party arranged here, and the last moment everybody's been dropping out. The blizzard. Can't you flock your family around the corner and eat with us? Mother and I thought we knew you well enough to call you like this at the 7th hour. You would? Oh, fine. 6 more plates, Dunham. What? Oh. Well. But. Dunham, get Mother quick. Yes. Yes. Of course. Love it. Quite certainly. Yes, my dear. All right. Great Caesar, now what have I done?
What's going on, Elaine? What is it?
Oh, I've done it. Oh, I've just done it. But I couldn't get out of it. I just couldn't. You weren't here. Oh, I always lose my head and bungle things.
But what? Don't keep us waiting like this. What is it?
I invited Ella and the family, and she accepted. And then she said they had 2 house guests, and would it be all right? And of course I said it would, and now we're 16.
16? But madam, the table's not that long.
Elaine, that's just like you. No tact, no worldly wisdom. If I'd been on the telephone, I would have politely said that my table only...
You weren't at the phone. You ought to attend to such messages yourself. You know I always lose my head.
The dishes, madam, and we only have 14 game hens.
I won't eat any.
Just have to make the best of it and insert another board.
But, Mother, I don't need to sit at the table.
You're going to sit next to Oliver Farnsworth, and I don't want to hear another word about it.
But can't we just squeeze them in without all the trouble of adding another board? If I move the plates and chairs closer...
And have my guests crammed together like sardines? I won't stand for it.
Cook is in a rage. Madam, she says she's only prepared for 14.
Well, I can't help it. She'll have to prepare for 16. Tell her to open cans of soup and
Ice cream forms and the gelatin
I'll
molds.
pretend I don't like them.
I'll pretend I'm on a diet.
But I really wouldn't have to be at the table.
Be still. Oh, telephone. Now what? Don't answer it. It's driving me mad. Oh. Hello? Yes, this is Mrs. Pringle. Oh, Jessica. Yes? The blizzard? You're cold? Too dangerous? Oh, my dear, yes. Your husband's quite right. It would be foolhardy. Put on a mustard plaster. A hot toddy. Go to bed. So sorry. Well, that's wonderful. Now we are just 14.
But the cards are all wrong. Only 6 are coming who were invited originally. You'll have to make another diagram. How do you want them seated?
Give it to me.
Here are some fresh cards.
What a mess. Oh, I spent hours over this diagram. It's so important to have your guests seated harmoniously. Oh, there's the front doorbell, Dunham. I told Andy to answer it for you, but could you peek into the drawing room and tell me who it is? Murderous instrument. What have you to say? Now what? Oh. Hello? Who? Mr. Farnsworth. Mr. Oliver Farnsworth. No, you're his secretary? He's what? Instructed you to make his excuses? He's been called away to Boston at once on very important business. Oh, dare he! Oh, dare he! At the very last moment like this! Has he no regard for a hostess's feelings? Has he no regard for the effort she puts in for an evening's enjoyment? Oh, and I had such a good dinner planned, and he promised he would come. Business. I don't believe it. He just didn't want to exert himself, was afraid of freezing in the blizzard, as if he didn't have half a dozen limousines to carry him right to the door. Selfishness, downright rudeness, and worth millions. Oh, he was such a match for you, Elaine. I was bound that you should meet him and sit next to him at the table, and now I don't know when I'll be able to give you that chance again. Oh, I'm furious. I'll never speak to him again. I won't be treated this way.
Perhaps he really did have business and was called away.
I, one of the most important hostesses in the city. People clamoring for my invitations. All of my affairs are a success. I insist that they shall be. I can bear a failure. I won't have a failure. Oh, and he was my most important guest. Oh, such a man's man, and so important financially. Every man considered it an honor just to meet him, and now not coming. I'm furious, furious. It's all this damnable blizzard. Oh.
Now I really will have to stay away from the table. His not coming makes us 13 again.
Go to bed. Go up to the nursery. I will send you milk and crackers.
But, Mother, it's not my fault that he had business out of town.
Yes, it is. If you would perk up a bit and not be so timid and make something of yourself. He would hear about your attractions and be curious to meet you himself. Oh, what a family I have. No one to help me with my ambitions. Go to bed. I certainly won't sit down to 13. Go to bed. Get out of my sight.
It was Mr. Morgan, madam.
Mr. Morgan, but I telephoned his maid to tell him not to come.
He couldn't have received the second message, madam, for I heard him explaining to Mr. Pringle how happy he was to receive your telephone invitation.
That makes you 13 again, unless you don't want me to go to bed.
Of course I don't want you to go to bed. We're back to where we started, 14, Dunham.
I'll get the cocktails ready. Annie told me there were several motors making their way through the snow. It's late now, and Cook's worrying about the dinner getting dry.
I won't answer it.
I should think not. Hello? Yes, Mrs. Tupper? Oh, Mrs. Tupper. But now you must come. We're all prepared for you. Yes, all 8 of you. Your daughter told my daughter about the house guests and we're delighted to have them. But we're set for you. Every plate is set. But your daughter is quite right. It's not an imposition at all. But now you must come. Of course my daughter had authority to invite the guests of 8 isn't at all a large number. But there is room. But the table is all set. But I beg of you. Oh, my dear, it's not an imposition at all. But how foolish of you to take a stand like that. My dear? Oh, my dear? Now, what do you think of that? Mrs. Tupper is perfectly furious at Ella for telling you about the house guests, and said Ella has no tact, and nothing would induce her to bring 8 when we invited 6. So she's leaving Ella and Henry at home. Only 6 are coming. Remove 2 plates, Dunham. We are 12 after all.
But if you leave it 12, Father can't sit at the end.
I shall go mad. Oh, I will never entertain again. Never. Never. People ought to know whether they're coming or not, but they accept and regret and regret and accept. They drive me wild. This is my last dinner party, my very last. A fiasco, another fiasco. The haphazard crowd hurried together when I had everything planned so beautifully. Now how shall I seat them? How shall I seat them? If I put Mr. Tupper here and Mrs. Conley there, then, oh, Mrs. Tupper has to sit next to her husband. And if I put Mr. Morgan here, oh, it's impossible. Oh, I might as well just put their names into a hat and pull them out at random. Oh, I'm through. Through with society, with parties, with friends. I wipe my slate clean. They'll miss my entertainments. They'll wish they'd been more considerate. From now on, I'm gonna live for myself. I'm gonna be selfish and hard, unsociable. Oh, I'm gonna drink my liquor myself instead of offering it gratis to the whole town. Oh. And I'm through with men. Men like Oliver Farnsworth. Oh, I don't care how rich they are, how important they are, how influential they are. They're nothing without courtesy and consideration. Business, off on trade, nonsense. Didn't want to come. Didn't want to meet a sweet, pretty girl. Didn't want to marry her. Well, he's not good enough for you, do you hear? Don't you marry him. Don't you dare marry him. If you tried to elope or anything like that, I'd break it off. Yes, I would. Oliver Farnsworth will get no recognition from me. He is beneath my notice. I hate Oliver Farnsworth.
A note from Mr. Farnsworth, madam.
A note from Mr. Farnsworth?
Yes, madam. There are two strange gentlemen in the lower hall. One of them presented this note. He said he was Mr. Farnsworth's secretary. All the other guests are seated upstairs in the drawing room. I counted 12 in all, including you and Mr. Pringle and Miss Elaine. But the two gentlemen downstairs are waiting for your answer. The one gentleman's face looked very familiar. I'm sure I've seen his face somewhere.
Seen his face? Somewhere? Oh my goodness, Elaine! It's the Prince of Wales!
The secretary said you cut off the telephone or Central disconnected you. He was about to tell you that Mr. Farnsworth knew that the blizzard had prevented His Highness from keeping an engagement way uptown.
The Prince of Wales is sitting in my lower hall, waiting for me to ask him to dinner!
Then we'll be 13 again.
There's the secretary, miss. He is his bodyguard.
Certainly the secretary! We shall be 14 at dinner. Serve the cocktails, Dunham. The guests may sit wherever they choose. I shall bring the prince in with me.
But, Mother, wasn't it nice of Oliver Farnsworth to send a prince in his place?
Didn't I always say that Oliver Farnsworth was the most considerate of men?
I think I shall like Mr. Farnsworth.
Silly child. It's too late to like Mr. Farnsworth. Now it's time to like the prince. I somehow always manage to be the most successful hostess in town. Thank God for the blizzard.